thank you so much for coming on A Few Minutes, Kaitlyn. I'm so happy to have you here today. Do you prefer Kaitlyn or Katie?
Yeah, Kaitlyn is great.
Okay,
Thank you for asking.
So, you are the entertainment news editor for Teen Vogue. Mm-hmm. That's such a cool job.
Thanks.
Is that the job you imagined having or anything similar when you were younger?
I think I wasn't sure what type of editor I wanted to be, like what my beat was necessarily, but I knew I wanted to be a Teen Vogue editor, like that. Since I was like 15.
Teen Vogue when you were younger?
Yeah. I have all my print versions of it just like stacked in a corner of my library at home, and yeah, it was my holy grail.
That is so cool. So you were a magazine girl.
I was too. I was a take your posters out and put them on the wall. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like Tiger Beat.
Yes, J14. Yep.
What else were you reading like in high school? Maybe like early college.
I think I was definitely a magazine girly, but I read a lot of fiction, and I've always been a huge fiction reader. So just like a lot of novels. I think when I got to college, in terms of magazines, I started reading like Nylon. And then I ended up interning there, which was really cool. But other like publications like that, and like The Cut, which was like in its like early days back then. So yeah.
What, I guess, was your biggest misconception about working in editorial from being like a consumer and then being an editor or a writer or an intern?
Yeah. I think, I feel like you see like movies like The Devil Wears Prada and things like that, and you see the pace, right? But I think living the pace is different than like just observing it from a third party perspective. I think the pace was like my biggest wake-up call and like just my biggest awakening when I started almost 2 years ago, just because it really is a lot.
Do you mean in terms of like churning out stories or just the amount of things you have to do in a day or a week's time?
I would say like both. I think the actual output of the job is like very intense. I mean, we work in news, which is a 24-hour cycle, so you never know what's going to pop off ever. There are days where, like, there's divorces, there are days where there's babies, there's days where there's deaths all in one, and that is, like, very pressing. And I also say, like, I think the social demands of the job are also something that I didn't expect, that I think are also, like, just very fun, but, like, can be tiring. So I think I didn't expect it to be as demanding as it was either. Yeah.
I was gonna ask you about that because you interviewed Ice Spice.
I did.
You saw Beyonce this summer.
I did.
You saw Drake. You went to Essence Fest. What has been like the highlight of your summer socially, and then the highlight of your summer for work?
That's a great question. The highlight of my summer socially so far. I would say probably Essence Fest. I think that was like a really great time. So I went last year, and that was my first year in this role, and it was very much like baby editor walking around like making connections, not really like knowing where to go, what to do. And then this year, my second year in the role, it was just like almost a complete 180. Like I knew a bunch of people were coming up to me, and we were like having conversations, making connections, and like I had a lot of colleagues that I met in the last year through like networking that I got to actually like meet in person, and other like Black women journalists. And we like went to Netflix had this They Clone Tyrone party, and it was like the most fun ever. And like it was just all these media women in one room like throwing ass to Juvenile, and it was just like so fun. It was just a great time. And then for work, I guess, I would say Ice. I think that's probably been the biggest lift this year for me, and that was intentional just because I feel like last year I was doing a lot of heavy lifts, so I think this year I wanted to just really like focus on one, and that was like I pitched that in the beginning of the year, and I was like, I want to make it happen. So yeah, I think that's probably the highlight so far.
It was a great story.
Thank
it was a really
you.
great story. I think probably one of the best like interviews, profiles I've seen of her.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really did love it.
Thank you so
I
much.
love when an artist is really candid in an interview. I think that's something that for me I haven't seen a lot. As like publishing has changed, like people have become more shy. They've like written their own interviews. People have more control of their own image. And so it's good to see an artist really be open to press, especially a new artist.
Yeah, she was just a delight, honestly. Like, she was just so down to earth, so cool. And you could tell she was like a little nervous at first, but like, of course, like, that is natural. It makes sense. And then we were talking, and I got a good amount of time with her, and we were just like, she's hilarious too. Like, we were just sitting there kikiing, and she just was like being so just like open and honest, and I really appreciated that. And I was like glad that I was able to get that from her.
What other maybe like artists or actresses, actors have you interviewed that it was like a really great experience for you as a writer and an interviewer?
I'm grateful to say that I've had a few that I can like think off the top of my head. Like Tyler James Williams he's like, you know, he's many of our childhoods from Everybody Hates Chris, and he was just so cool. Like, he was just very gracious. I was having like technical difficulties, like my Wi-Fi went out in the middle of our interview, so it was like then he was answering a question and I had to like log back on to the Zoom, and he was just like, it's totally fine, like we can add those like 5 minutes that we lost, it's okay, like it's totally fine. It was just us. So that was dope. And who else? I'm trying to think. Gaten Matarazzo from Stranger Things, he's also really, really fun to talk to. He's just like, his personality is just huge. Keke Palmer is just, I don't even have to say anything else. Keke Palmer. And I've had the opportunity to speak to her a few times, so that was really nice.
Did she remember you from other times?
Yeah, so the first time we met in person, and then the second time was a phone interview, but she did remember me, so that was really nice. Cool. And we had met at Summit because she was our keynote speaker for Teen Vogue Summit last year, so she was awesome. I mean, yeah, I could go on. I feel like I was able to like interview Chloe Bailey, who was also just brilliant. She's just so smart, just like a reservoir of knowledge, and I feel like a lot of people don't give her props enough, so it was dope, like being able to talk to her about like all like the technical aspects of like her job.
I think that's the importance of like a good interview. I think about sometimes what we present ourselves as like on social media, or, you know, for an artist it's through like branding, is not necessarily what people see in us, and I think you could think about that in a negative way, but also in a really like beautiful way, like oh, you're so smart, but you may not want to talk about all the ins and outs of productions on your story, but a journalist could kind of bring that out of you, and I think that's like the beauty of a really good profile. Yeah,
she was like, thank you for letting me nerd out, and I was like, yeah, of course. I was like, that's what I'm here for.
What is the typical day or week of an editor at Teen Vogue?
Well, I can speak for myself. So I'm in charge of the daily news lineup. So I cover everything covering entertainment news. And basically, like, I start around like 8-ish, and I just start like searching for different like aggregated news stories, or like stories that I've seen on like social media, or things people are talking about, and then I choose the lineup, and then I either write or assign and then edit those stories to be published, and that's like mid-morning-ish, like early afternoon, and then by late afternoon I try to pivot over to like editing features or like other interviews if I had an interview, or if like I'm writing something, going towards that, and just like meeting with my team and stuff like that. So that's usually like the day-to-day pace. But then again, like there are times where like we'll have like an event in office, or like I'll have an event in the middle of the day, or like a screening at nighttime that I have to leave early. So it really just depends on the week, honestly. It kind of is very unpredictable, and that's also what I meant earlier about like pace too. You can have a routine, but you have to be like very flexible to like having it change. So adaptability is something that I think I have always been proud of myself for being able to really like turn on and off, but it's something that has not turned off since since I've been in this role.
Do you feel pressure to be social
Absolutely. And it's, yeah, I was literally just talking about this with my coworkers yesterday who, like, my work besties who are now becoming my besties in real life, which is awesome. But, yeah, it's like, I would say I'm kind of like a borderline introvert who's very good at faking as an extrovert. And I think, especially in this day and age where media is just, like, so ever-changing and, like, influencers are the ones getting a lot of these interviews that are like Drake just sat down with Bobby Althoff, I think is her name, for like an hour in her bed, right, or in his bed, and like I think there is a lot of, and I don't think it's necessarily it's nothing like internal, but I think I feel a lot of external pressure to like be like posting on social media all the time or like be doing influencer type stuff. So I know that's really hard for me because I'm very much a post and go girl. Like my Instagram DMs, my inbox is historically just a mess because I will just post and then my time limit will turn on, my screen time, and it'll be like, all right, well, and I'm like, okay, well, that's
What are people saying to you? Like, what are your DMs flooded with?
It ranges. It's either like pitches, which I don't like to accept via DMs. Mm-hmm. It's like,
I feel like those are, I hate to say it, they're never the good pitches.
They're never the good pitches usually. Like, I mean, the ones, like, I have relationships with, like, certain people, and, like, they know that sometimes it's easier to, like, get to me, like, through social media or, like, via text than it is.
The soft ass.
Right, exactly. Like, are you actually interested in this? And I'm like, oh, yeah. But, yeah, a lot of it is pitches. A lot of it is people being like, can I pick your brain? A lot of it is people being like, are y'all hiring? And I'm like, that's not right. And then like the other half is like my friends and like my usual followers just like responding to stuff that I post. So it's just a lot because it's not, I have to field like those types of answers while also just like being myself. So it's like I like dread going into my inbox because it's like I have to pivot every single time, you know, like between my professional self and who I really am, quote unquote. So
do you feel pressure to have like a brand on social media? Because I think anyone who works in entertainment, like the brand comes naturally because you do fun stuff and you want to post about work and your accomplishments. But do you ever feel pressure to present a certain way?
I feel like, I think a little bit, and I think it's more so like, again, it's kind of like that influencer editor hybrid thing that I was like mentioning earlier. Yeah. Like I think I sometimes like, if I like bust a fit, I'm like, okay, maybe I have to post this now because like people are expecting, like, you know what I mean? Like it's little things like that. Or if like I go to an event and like I don't post about it, like, but that just happens because like I end up going to so many things that like, and then my content just gets so backed up. And like I had went to Solange did the El Dorado Ballroom and I had to go for work, and it was fantastic. I went to the first night, which was like the celebration of women in R&B with Kalela and Kia and all of them, and it was fantastic. But I had like recorded all the stuff that I had intended to post on my own social media, even though I was doing like the review, and I just never posted it because I just never got around to it. And March was like so busy, and then I felt so bad afterwards because I was like, oh my God, I really should have posted that. Like people would have liked to see that, but it's just, it gets overwhelming sometimes. Like I think a lot of the pressure is in my head too. Yeah.
That's interesting. That I sometimes when I used to work in social for like a music magazine, I would feel so much pressure to post even if I didn't have to. Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I could be better at my job if I posted this or, you know, maybe
you never
another
know who's watching.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
I think that is the biggest pressure of working in media is that you never know who's watching. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. So
absolutely.
If you say something clever on Twitter, you tweet something like profound, someone could be like, oh, I want your comment on this, or you could write about this. Right. But also, even being people who are like critical of like music or movies, you don't want to like burn any bridges or say something that might be offensive. How do you balance that?
I'm still figuring it out. I think because there's a lot of times where like, I mean, you just can't like, you can't tweet the same, you know what I mean? It's not. And the other thing is a lot of the times, like I think before I was even like a freelancer, I would say that like, I would just like tweet my ideas or like go on like a thread about XYZ. But like now, like I always say, like people give away too many ideas for free on Twitter. Like, and I just think we should know less about each other. So I think I'm really trying to figure out like what can I do to still foster community on Twitter and like be in community with people and not feel like I'm just like doing an extension of my job on social media.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw someone tweet about that this morning, actually. Like, they want to be a part of the shits and giggles of Twitter and not always have to, like, sell their brand or sell themselves or talk about work.
And there's so many people that always just, like, they're, like, who enter media and then their personal social media accounts become their professional social media accounts. And, like, sometimes I wish I didn't have to, like, post about work at all. But, like, just the reality of, like, you know, the fact that, especially in the type of stories that I create right now, it's mostly written and mostly long form. So it's like, I'm going to have to post it. Otherwise, some people may not see it, you know, and they wouldn't be able to access it other ways. So I think it's just like trying to figure out, all right, because I just want to eat good food, travel, be hot on Instagram. Like, you know, just like regular 25-year-old stuff. But like at the same time, like I have to utilize my platform. So yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
What you said earlier about merging like the personal and the professional, especially on social media, I felt and still feel like an immense amount of pressure to connect with other people in media. And I think it's difficult because I'm 25, wanting to like make genuine connections, I don't only want to connect with people because of work.
Exactly.
Or because, okay, you could be beneficial to my career in some way. Like, I want to like people as humans before. And I think that's the biggest, for me, pressure that I feel working in entertainment. Like, ooh, like I want to be nice to everyone and I want to be, you know, friendly. But sometimes I feel like, oh my God, I have to know this person or I have to get on like their good side because they could go places I never know. We could be 30 and need each other. Do you ever feel?
Absolutely. All the time, especially because I'm also 25 and I feel like I have always said like, whether it's like, because I used to be like an RA, like whether it's me like telling my residents like career advice like in college or like people that like come to me for like mentorship advice now, which I think is wild because like, again, I don't know what I'm doing. But like I always say that like, how I kind of got to where I am is not by networking in the traditional sense, because I feel like networking, especially like with a capital N, is extremely transactional and it's very cold. It's not genuine. And I feel like how I've been able to, I guess, just get to where I am in media is really like making actual genuine connections with people and like building relationships, not like having a contact, you know what I mean? So, and I think I still feel a lot of that just because there are a lot of people who don't feel that way in media. You know, it is about business and like, that's fine. I think I'm just trying to figure out like what role I play in that ecosystem and like how I can navigate it without like losing the interest that I have in just like connecting with people.
Yeah. That's really interesting that you say it's so transactional for people, because sometimes you see someone and you're like, okay, they work at a cool place, but they also dress really cool and they do cool things. It's like, okay, I could envision myself in their social circle. But then there's this other thing like, okay, I could also work with them, and balancing that is really tricky.
Especially because there's so many cool people in media.
Like, I followed you on Instagram, and then I think I pitched something to you, and then I was like, but you could also come on my podcast and we could have a good conversation. And I don't know, I think it's cool how there are so many Black women in media, and that, especially around our age. And so there's such a big network, but I also, again, do feel like, okay, I don't want to be like fake towards someone and try to like social climb or career climb by getting near them.
Yeah. It's hard, especially because like you never really know like the perception that others like have of you too. But I mean, that's jail. So like I try not to think about that at all.
Working in entertainment, I think being online or being on YouTube or watching TV or listening to music, you're kind of always in work mode. Like, how can I turn this maybe into a story or something for work? What do you watch, consume, read, whatever, when you're like, I don't want to think about work. I just want to be Kaitlyn?
Gilmore Girls. Me and my sister, we grew up in the suburbs, right? We're originally from Brooklyn, East New York. And my sister I don't know how she found that show. It was on the WB, like, when it first aired, right? The WB, show my age. But she just, like, became obsessed with it. And their humor was, like, very similar to our humor. And, like, we both talk very fast. We're both very witty. And, like, it just kind of reminded me of, like, our dynamic and their dynamic in, like, our family, even though these are, like, 3 white women in Connecticut. And she just, like, became obsessed with it. And, like, my mom bought all the box sets for her, and she would just watch it. Like, binging before streaming was, like, a thing. And then it kind of just became a part of me as well. I have seen that show in totality maybe, like, 7 times. And I can, like, recite entire lines. So that's, like, my, like, prime comfort show. So I will return to that, like, always. If I'm like, okay, I just can't even, like, I don't want to think about anything new. I don't want to think about, like, anything trending. I'm just going to go back to 2002 with Rory and Lorelai in Stars Hollow. So that's usually where I go.
Who's Rory's best boyfriend?
It's Jess. That's the only right answer.
I think it was like end of last year. I think that's when Gilmore Girls, did they just put it on Netflix or something like that? I feel like there was a resurgence of people talking about it.
It was the 20-year anniversary.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, yes, because they did like a Netflix special or something.
Yeah, and that was in 2016 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like such a big debate. I even see it on TikTok. Like,
yeah, people get upset, but no shade, no tea. It's always Jess. That's the only right answer.
I do agree with you, though. When you always have to, like, come up with new ideas, watching old shows where things are so predictable is so comforting. I watch Scandal again and again because I'm like, it's drama-filled.
Don't you miss like TGIT? Oh, my God.
I really do.
I do.
I always talk about how... So we had Sundays, like Insecure Sundays, and there was like Succession, and what was on at the same time?
Game of Thrones too.
Game of Thrones,
like HBO was really like doing its big one,
Yeah, but it's not beating TGIT. Like
Nothing
How to Get Away with
that.
Murder, Grey's Anatomy, and Scandal.
Especially
Amazing.
Like at that time, like the quality was so good. Yeah.
I was talking to someone and they were like, we think Scandal is better than it actually is. And I was like, no, this is one of the best television shows of all time to me.
That's interesting. I haven't rewatched like since it like went off. I definitely want to revisit it though, because I definitely like make quotes about like all the time. Like,
if I'm pitching to you a rewatch, I will say something that's interesting is a lot of the actors started off in drama, and so if you rewatch it knowing that, it does a lot. Like it definitely
like in
changes.
Like theater, you mean?
In theater,
like,
in theater.
Yeah, I mean Joe Morton, right?
Exactly,
yeah.
and Tony Goldwyn too.
Oh my God,
they're
fantastic.
They have some of the best monologues on the show.
They sure
and then
do.
I forgot Cyrus's character.
Yes,
name in real life,
but yeah,
he's the best character on the show.
Really, hot take. Mine is Papa Pope, but
I think they are.
He's my favorite.
They're like arch nemesis.
They definitely are, because they're kind of similar. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
like so
they play off each other.
Yeah.
So earlier we were talking about rewatching Insecure.
Yes.
And you said that you were originally Team Issa and now you're not. What was the switch?
First of all, I don't know why I was Team Issa at all. It must have been like some just like feminist bandwagon. I was like, I'm not gonna be on the man's side, like no, because now like I'm rewatching and like, you know, therapy will do it too. Okay, let me just say that I have been in therapy now for almost like 2 years, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me. And man, Issa just every single like issue that she had in her romantic life, in her personal life, in season 1 could have all been remedied with one simple conversation. Like,
yeah, she was very avoidant.
She was so avoidant. Oh my God. Like, and she would always tell other people her issues with other people, but not the person that she actually had the issue with. And then as soon as the time came for an argument or for like a conversation, she would run away from it.
Yeah. Or just explode, like when she actually had it.
Yes.
Like Lawrence and Issa after the dinner.
Oh my God. And then and then that's it. Like, and then again, run away after that. And then wait like months to remedy it. And then it's like a lot of things are just sitting there bubbling, and that's how resentment builds. And she could have just, if she just opened her mouth, that whole season would have been like, her and Lawrence would have been together immediately. Like, So it was so frustrating to watch, but amazing TV. Oh my God. Like, I was just reminded of like how impeccable that writing is. Like, that writer's room, I would love, like, I know how they did at the end of season 5, like they did the little like documentary that kind of like showed like how the behind the scenes worked and like the final season, but I would have loved to see that like for the whole thing. Like, that would have been, or like so
a podcast with the writers,
oh
something
my God.
like that.
Just
from
geniuses.
An entertainment editor's perspective, why do you think the show was so popular?
Ooh. I think because of the fact that Issa was like kind of an everyman, so she was kind of like a vessel in a way, because she was experiencing a lot of things. I mean, she was in her mid-20s in the first season, and I think like her and Molly kind of, well, they weren't archetypes because they were very unique, but I think they were just open enough as characters that you could see yourself in either of them depending on the situation. And I think the situations that they were in were just so realistic to Black people from the ages of what I was in my, that was like my sophomore year of college when it started. So like I was not even their age, like as what their characters were, but we were still experiencing like some of the same things. And I think that is just like, I don't know, we didn't have a show that was speaking to like to that age group specifically, like the millennial take. And I think it was just, people were hungry for it. And I mean, I don't think, if I really want to give kudos to the writers, because I don't think like if it was mediocre scripts, I still don't think it would have, like, it would have been like hitting the demographic, but I don't think it would have taken off the same way. Like the conversations that they have are just so realistic and it's hilarious. Like I don't think we were getting that blend of like drama and comedy for Black young people in that way ever before. So
it felt very lived in.
Yes.
I didn't feel like the show and the writers were forcing me into a world that may be unrealistic. Mm-hmm. Insecure, and the characters, and of course everyone talks about the cinematography. It felt like I could walk down the street in LA and actually meet these people. Mm-hmm. And I do think for myself that's the issue I have with shows like Harlem or like Run the World. It's that they don't feel lived in. I feel like I'm meeting people who may not actually exist.
Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I think since Insecure, I feel like everyone's trying to capture lightning in a bottle again, and it's not, I don't know. I think it'll take a lot of, I don't know, I just think it needs something fresh, and it doesn't need to be like the most dramatic or the most hilarious. Like I don't think that should be the goal. It shouldn't be like, the goal shouldn't really be like giving Black people a show. It should be showing different types of Black people.
Yes.
You know, like
I think so many shows seem like, okay, we're giving the Blacks a show.
Mm-hmm. Here's another one. Yeah. And it's just like, it's not the same. I mean, that's why P-Valley is so huge, because it's not just another Black show. It's them
completely unique experience.
Exactly. Something that many people like just don't know about, like, and have different like misconceptions about, and it's just showing like the actual nuances of all these real people who like live in this world. So I feel like that's why it just took off, and Insecure deserved an Emmy. It makes me so angry, like rewatching, I just can't believe that they just didn't get an Emmy. Like it's insane to me.
That is criminal. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they were nominated a few times, like especially like in the creative arts categories and stuff, for like costuming and for
sure.
Yes, so good. But like they should have gotten a writing or directing Emmy. Jay Ellis deserved an acting Emmy, in my opinion. Issa deserved an acting Emmy. Like it's upsetting. They were robbed, but you know, we'll see, I guess.
What are you watching currently? Like outside of maybe like new things?
Yeah. I've been putting off starting The Bear for a really long time because I had watched the first episode of season 1 and it was just so chaotic that I was like nervous, because like I have anxiety naturally, so I was like, do I want to do this to myself? And then I just visited a friend in Atlanta and she just finished season 2, and I was like, my sister keeps telling me about this show too. I was like, everybody's talking about it, and I was like, I hate being out of the loop also. And the thing is, like,
Tyra?
Yes.
Yes, I know Tyra. Yeah.
Yes.
She has good taste in TV.
She does. She does. Shout out to Tyra.
And nails, too.
The T in Tyra is for taste,
Yeah.
right? But I was just like, all right. I was like, we had like free time, and I was like, all right, let me just like actually sit down and try it. And now I'm just obsessed, of course, because I feel like I have like an addictive personality. Like I just throw myself into it. Like once I'm like, yeah, I like it, like that becomes everything. So The Bear is definitely what I'm on right now, I would say. Rewatching Insecure. I just watched Survival of the Thickest as well with Michelle Buteau. Yeah, she's a gem. Michelle Buteau is a gem, and she is so funny, and she deserves her things. And yeah, I mean, a lot of times I really like, it sucks, but like I find myself revisiting a lot of nostalgia, and like when I'm not watching like screeners for things that are new, just because like I want to turn my brain off, you know, but like I also want to be part of the conversation. So that's also like writing that fine line that, you know, because it's like if I watch this new thing and I have a thought, then it's gonna be work, you know, like
exactly.
So it's kind of hard, but I think that's what I'm on right now for sure. Yeah.
And music wise, what are you listening to?
I'm on a big Central C kick right now.
Okay, I think everyone is.
Yeah, but like even before On the Radar, like I just really like his personality, and there's just something about him, like he has like that star power. Like he could be a fashion boy when he wants to. Like he has like
Vogue,
the edge.
What's in my bag?
Oh my god, and he's funny. Like his chicken shop date with Amelia de Moldenberg is so good. Like he's great, and he's so young. But I've been on a big Central C kick. All the female rappers, of course. I'm a big rap and R&B head.
Sexy Red?
Yes. I felt like Sexy Red this week because I ran out of contacts. So I've just been wearing my glasses like all week. Sexy Red for sure. Yeah, and I just also like was binging I was going through like all my old Drake playlists just in preparation for seeing him at Barclays. Yeah. So still coming off of that high as well.
What is your favorite Drake album?
Oh my god. My gut says Take Care. I think my second, that's really hard. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with Take Care because I think there are some albums that vie for the number 2 spot, but then it gets into like tying territory, so it's like way harder for me to decide. But Take Care I think is my OG.
If you interview Drake, what would you ask him? What would you want to be kind of like the through line of the conversation?
You know, and I think I was just thinking about this the other day because like Drake, he doesn't really do interviews anymore, like at all, and like that's why
serious ones either,
right? Because he is the most unserious man. We know that, but like an actual like editorial, like sit down, like that's not on video. Like I think the last one that he did, that was written, because I think the one that comes to mind first is his interview with Elliott Wilson on Rap Radar.
Yeah. Such a long time ago.
Right. That was like 2018, maybe like 5 years ago. And that one was like an hour long. But I think the last one that he did, I think was like for the Fader or something. It was like, he just doesn't talk to press. So I don't know. I feel like I would, I don't want to give away my ideas for free, but like, I definitely just would want to know like, what is it that like are his goals now? Because like as like one of the biggest stars like in the world and in mainstream, like I feel like after you get to a certain level, like once you've kind of like Beyonce, like once you've won all the Grammys that you can win, once you've like sold out all the arenas and all the stadiums that you can, once you've like gone platinum, once you have all these plaques, once you have all these followers, once you do all these things, like I think your goals probably shift less from career goals to personal goals, and I would just love to know like what those are, because I just feel like he has worked very hard to create this persona, many personas, I mean, you know, but I think like for him, when he lays down like in bed at nighttime, like what is it that he's hoping for like from the next day? Like what is it? Like are you like, because he still talks about how he's so engulfed in work and like, you know, he doesn't think he's gonna settle down, all this stuff, like okay,
yeah,
so what's your purpose? Like what is the, you know, I would just love to because he's the voice of a generation, but I don't know if he's the voice of this new generation. So what is his goals?
Yeah, I like that you said, or when you said he's the voice of this generation, it got me thinking about how those like sit down editorial interviews, they're so great to look back upon and really understand where an artist was coming from and who they were and what was going on at the time. And I do think that's what's missing from media, especially with some of our like younger legends, is talking to them on a deeper level. And of course their music speaks for itself, and what they put out to the world on social media, but nothing is, I think, ever going to beat like a print spread or a really good sit down interview that's
I mean, I'm biased, minutes. But I completely agree. I mean, and I think what you can get from a celebrity profile, the biggest thing you can get is context. Like, you are able to place this person in the context of everything that's going on in the world, and also like potentially like where you are in life. And I think with like video interviews, while they can be very candid and you can like see their expressions and their emotions like actually play out on their face and like the like different tone of their voices, I think you get a different type of intimacy from a celebrity profile that I think it's very hard. I think it's really difficult to do, but I think that's not, it has a different like spirit, and I feel like that we're losing recipes.
We definitely are losing recipes. So before we go, if there are, outside of Teen Vogue, because I definitely think everyone should read Teen Vogue, whether you're a teen or not. I think the content's really good. And then, you know, the political slant that Teen Vogue has is so beautiful, and I think so important. Whether it's fiction, nonfiction, like print, what are you recommending people read over the next like few weeks, few months?
It's a great question. I think everyone just, even like the next few years, I think everyone should be reading Toni Morrison right now, especially in this cultural climate. I think I just think people should return to fiction, actually, like in general. I just feel like, especially in this day and age when everyone is trying to like be the best version of themselves, I think a lot of people turn to nonfiction and self-help, but I don't think people realize how much fiction can actually help you imagine more for yourself, and can also act as like a salve when things are like really, really hard. So I just think people should return to fiction.
I agree. The context and reading between the lines and like drawing your own conclusions, as opposed to someone telling you to like wake up at 5 a.m. and journal about this.
Right.
I 1,000% agree. And Toni Morrison too. Like, The Bluest Eye.
Yes.
Sula. Those are my recommendations.
Paradise.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, James Baldwin said, like, you think you have, like, experienced all the pain and heartbreak, like, in the world. Like, it's, like, unprecedented. And then you read. And I just feel like that is just so true. I think people would find more connection in everything in their day-to-day life, whether it's people, whether it's, like, concepts, ideas, if they just read more.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Are you headed back to Teen Vogue offices?
Yeah, I got work to do.
Dream.
So,
what did they say in The Devil Wears Prada? 1,000 girls would kill to meet you.
Yeah, so I am heading back in my bejeweled flip-flops right now.
All right, well, have a good one.
Thank you. You too.